Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Patricia, it's nice to see you.
Alaikum salam. It's nice to be invited here.
Good. How are you? Are you okay?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well, thank you.
Good. We've joined as well with my sister, who's here, who's joined us together for this. Assalamu alaikum, Aisha.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good. How are you, Aisha?
Very well, alhamdulillah.
Good. So, for people who are listening, obviously I don't have a lot of, or any female sisters who I can bring on the show to talk. So it's good that I've got my sister here as well, who can share and bring some more female sisters onto the show so they can share their stories with us, which is really good to have. So, as I said previously, if any of you sisters know anyone else who wants to come on the show and have a chat with me and Aisha, we can talk about things and going forward. So, Patricia, you're on the show today. It's good to have you here. Tell us, with your story, growing up for you, were you Muslim? How long did it take for you to become a Muslim? What was your life like before Islam?
Well, growing up, we came from a traditional Christian background. My father and mother were from Jamaica, and my father's a Maroon. So they brought over their traditions from Jamaica, and they were practicing Christians. The whole family, cousins and aunties were practicing Christians. So we'd do the traditional thing of going to Sunday school every Sunday. I remember even on a Sunday at home, we didn't watch TV. We weren't allowed. We were just we used to have family gatherings and just sit and discuss. And it was really, I remember it was a nice way of life. Life was, how can I say, it was simple.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
So the whole family, I remember obviously there's Christian traditions. I mean, I had all that when I was younger as well, going to Sunday school and learning all the hymns and singing in front of all the people. It was nice, because obviously you're around other people as well.
Absolutely.
With my church as well, obviously, it was just a lot of black people in the church. There was a few whites as well, so you had the whole community and the culture in there as well. So there's a lot of positivity. So in terms of...
it was very much so.
Yeah.
How things developed, I'd say, in terms of starting to question.
Okay.
I found when I had experienced racism from a police officer, funnily enough. I was only about 10 years old, up to 11 years old, and he was extremely rude. I had just come from the local park and very politely said to the police officer, "Excuse me, sir, what is the time?" And the things he said, I couldn't repeat it, and I remembered going to my father, crying, traumatized, and I remember my father saying to me, very wisely, I know it's not nice what happened and it's wrong, but remember, not everyone is like this. And that stuck with me, and that was part of my dad's way and his Christian faith coming out. But over time, I'd had different experiences in school, things I'd learned, and when they used to talk about history and things, I started to question and query, and with my life experiences, when I was in church, I used to ask a lot of questions, and I didn't get the answers that I wanted. I couldn't understand why, even though it said God was a jealous God, do not worship anyone other than me, why we were praising Jesus and everything was about Jesus. I became really confused.
Yeah.
And I remember even asking my parents, and it was like, you don't really ask questions. It wasn't expected, and I thought, I just felt uncomfortable, and I never spoke about it after that. But then I always had that in the back of my mind. Then growing up as a teenager, I was still going to church, and I was still asking questions, and then I just stopped going because I felt that it just didn't feel right. It felt right worshipping God, but it just didn't feel right praising Jesus in terms of praising him as being God. And because in Islam, you know, we revere Jesus, peace be upon him, as you know, a messenger, and his significance within the end of times, it will be highly significant. However, it was very fuzzy for me back then, so I decided to just start searching. And I remember back then it was the time of Rastafarianism, and mixed with my experiences searching identity and all those different factors, I delved into that area, and I found after some time it wasn't for me, because the same thing was, they were revering a man as being, you know, a saviour. It just didn't sit well. And with all these times of searching, I always used to read the Bible by myself as a child, and just research and read, and I just, it was revelation that always sat with me, the lake of fire that was just there, and it used to just put the fear of God into me, and I just thought, you know what, I need to find out what the truth is. And it was always something, and that would stay with me, and life went on, and I had, you know, my family, and you know, you have your family, children, and it's even more, when you have children, it's even more of a concern when you believe in God, that you get it right, because you are then nurturing somebody else as well as yourself, spiritually as well. So I found it was round about 2005. I remember, because I didn't actually have much experience with people that were Muslim. I did have a cousin who had reverted, and I do remember him, because he was just such a lovely character anyway, but I just remembered he just had this glow, you know, I can't explain it, he just had this glow about him, and he spoke about Islam, not in a way to revert me, but just about more the historical side of Islam in the Andalusian times in Spain, and how much they'd brought to Spain, and with all their he used to talk about street lights, how they'd have street lights in comparison to England back then, the wealth of knowledge that they had and brought over. So from a historical side, he would talk about Islam, but I didn't see him that often. So around about 2005, I remember there was a gentleman in my department at work, and he was actually, he wasn't a permanent member of staff. He was he'd come in just to help for a period of time. It was an Asian gentleman, very quiet, very unassuming, and I remember him saying to me, hi, how are you? I said, I'm fine. And I said, something said to me like, why are you not eating today? And he explained about fasting and Ramadan, which that was like, oh, what's that? So he explained everything, and I said, oh, right. I said, can I do that? And he goes, of course you can. He said, you can try it out if you want. I said, okay. So, me being me, I just went in and said, right, I'm not going to be eating. I didn't actually know what I was doing, by the way. I just didn't eat. I knew it was sunrise and sundown, and that was it. And it for the whole month, because I just caught at the beginning of the Ramadan. So the whole month I went through this journey, and I tell you something, my connection that I found with Allah, I cannot even describe it fully in words. Something happened within that month to me. I found myself not just spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. I felt that something had just switched on, and my antennae were just out there. So that was the first stage of me knowing that Islam, there's something about it, and I just need to know a little bit more. And at the end of the Ramadan, I gave my Shahada. So that was my first step into Islam.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Wow. On that, when you talk about Ramadan and you spoke to your colleague and you were intrigued by it, when you started doing the fasting, because obviously when people speak to me about fasting, they just look at it as though I'm just fasting, whereas obviously the whole point of Ramadan is to gain taqwa, the consciousness of Allah. Yeah. So in that, how did the colleague explain it to you so that you went in with the right thought process? Because
I think, to be fair to the gentleman, because he didn't really know me and I didn't really know him, and looking back now, I think he was conscious of his interaction with me as a female. Yeah. But I had no idea of that at the time. So I think that may have been that. But what he did do, he gave me a leaflet.
Okay.
I remember, and I read that through. And even though looking back now, it wasn't the leaflet. I just felt that I had made a conscious effort to connect with my Lord. I knew that I was doing this because I needed to find something. I needed something to happen, and I felt that even though I wasn't praying and I didn't understand the the fullness of what you needed to do, I prayed naturally, because we were brought up to pray, and I had that conversation with my Lord, and I asked him sincerely for guidance, and I do truly believe that is what happened.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. Considering it's Ramadan is what led you to Islam as well. I mean, you couldn't even ask for a better way to come to Islam. So that's really good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
When you were, before Islam, then you were speaking about you looked into Rastafarianism and all those other things. Were there any other faiths that you looked into?
I remember there was a lovely lady. Her name was Olive. She was a Jehovah's Witness. And how I came about her, I know that she used to knock on our door when we were little.
Okay.
When we were living at home with Dad, we were little girls, But then I remember her coming to my door and knocking the door as a young lady growing up, and she remembered me. I remembered her, and from there, she used to come in, and we used to have our talks, and actually we used to have Bible lessons. However, it was nice because we had discussions back and forth. And what I did like about the Jehovah's Witness concept was not revering. It didn't seem like they were revering Jesus as God.
Okay.
It didn't seem like they were revering Jesus as God.
Yeah.
And they didn't celebrate Christmas, and some of the things kind of tied in with what I was always questioning, but it still didn't sit with me. But it was better than nothing in my mindset. But then eventually, I felt that it wasn't really what I was looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. You know, and you mentioned as well, you've with your family and things like that, being Christian and Jamaican growing up and the whole family. So when you then decided to start asking more questions and eventually changed, what was that like for you?
Well, as you know, mums are the head of the house, even though fathers think they are the head of the house. Actually, it's mums that run things secretly.
Yeah.
And I remember my mum, because my mum is a very strong character, and I remember mum, because at the time, you know, with the 9/11 and all this, you know, and the negative press about Islam.
Yeah.
My mom, she just felt that, oh my God, she's going through a crisis. What has happened to my daughter? Give me back my daughter. Because back then, I was very, you know, I'd go and get my hair done every week at the hairdressers. I just felt like I was quite conscious of my appearance, outwardly, you know, and everything has to be pristine. And then she just like, I'm covering my hair. I mean, I wasn't fully covered at that time, but I just, you know, wrapped my hair. And my mum, it was such a change, and it's like she just thought, what's going on? Especially at my age, she thought, I thought this teenage thing went like, it wasn't like when you was a teenager and you delved into Rastafarianism. You know, you're in your like 40s or so, and what's going on? So I remember some of the things that I was learning about Islam was about the importance of how we spoke to our parents,
yes,
and how we interacted with them. And I thought the best thing to do is to show Mom by how I respond to her that it's okay. And I mean, it wasn't easy, and I mean, it took time. And Mum was very opinionated about things, and rightfully so, because it's her culture, it's her daughter, and she wants to be protective,
yeah,
of me, and I had to respect that. However, over time, you know, Mum realised that this wasn't going to go away. I'm still going to be this person. And I remember actually there was one summer's day, and Mum said to me, you can take your scarf off. It's a little bit hot, you know. I said, Mummy, it's okay, darling. I said, hell is hotter. And you know, we used to have a little joke about stuff, and eventually she realised that actually I'd found my peace,
yeah,
because she realised how my temperament had improved, and you know, she saw positives about my character. I mean, I was always, well, people would say I was always a calm person, but you know, within your family structure, you obviously are more open and you will show your temperament more than when you're with people you don't know, so they know you well.
Yeah.
So yeah, my temperament was much better. And one defining moment where I feel it was that moment of acceptance was when she brought me a scarf, which was just so endearing.
That's nice.
It meant a lot to me. Her buying me a scarf, it was beautiful. I have it to this day, and you know, it was her way of saying, you know, it's okay. You know, I understand. You do your thing.
That's good.
So yeah.
Really good.
So,
My dad was always accepting of me. I was always daddy's girl, so as long as I had manners, my dad used to say, do what I want.
okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. What about, were you married before you became a Muslim or not?
Well, the thing is, things were very different then. So no, I had not been married before then. Not to say not wanting to marry, but you know, it was part of, you know, why I was on my journey, because I wanted a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
And sometimes not everyone is on the same page as you.
Yeah.
And you have to make choices. So I wanted to make sure, you know, because people always used to say, oh, when I did get married, people used to say, oh, is it because of your husband why you're Muslim? And it clearly wasn't, because, you know, I used to explain your connection with your Lord and your journey should always be between you and your Lord, because your husband isn't going to save you on the day, you know, of questioning. We are all going to be responsible for what we do, the things we do, and it's important that if you do encounter, you know, your faith, it has to be between you and your Lord. So I said, no, it wasn't because of my husband. He came after Islam,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so after that, in terms of your family and things like that, so you've got your husband. Any children?
Well, I had children prior.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got my children. They're all grown up now, and they're like my heartbeat. I absolutely love them to bits, you know. So my children, funnily enough, 3 are Muslim now, and it's really funny because one was before I'd come to Islam. She had been like researching Islam, and when she was at university, it's my eldest daughter, and you know, she was Muslim then. I had no idea what on earth she was doing. You know, I know she used to go to these lessons, learning this language, and you know, because she's not the type of person to put it out there, this is what I'm doing. She just got on with it.
Okay.
And then my son, he became Muslim after I became Muslim, but I didn't realise. And because, you know, he'd all grown up and they'd left home, so, and that was just so lovely. And then my youngest daughter, she became Muslim just before university.
Okay.
When she was in college. I remember actually when my youngest daughter became Muslim, because her father, he's now passed away, may Allah rest his soul. He was a wonderful, wonderful father. And I remember, because he used to take her to church every single Sunday without fail. And I remember when she found out I was Muslim, she came to me and she you know, she said, "Mummy," she said, "I'm so scared now. You're gonna go to hell. You're gonna you know, you're not going to go to heaven.
Okay.
And she was crying, bless her, with all sincerity, because she had believed so much in, you know, in her faith at that time. And, you know, really, and I didn't think it was the right thing to kind of have this debate with your child who's very, very upset. You know, that's not the thing you do. You console and you know, and I reassured her, don't worry, it's okay. And then over time, you know, it's about how you behave, as I said, and your deeds and your character. And, you know, alhamdulillah, now she's Muslim herself. So, you know, I always believe it's about how we present ourselves to others. It's not what we say.
Definitely.
It's what we do. Yeah.
And especially because when I speak to Aisha as well, when we have conversations, we try and learn a lot of different things, but ultimately, the way we you know, hold ourselves and the way we treat others and what people see us doing for other people as well, that's what gravitates people towards us. And from that,
absolutely,
and then you get the goodness, you get the rewards from it. You don't even realise it, really.
You don't. I mean, it's just sometimes I reflect on the people that have been part of my journey. And, you know, I am so grateful to Allah that He's placed people, and sometimes they don't even realise that they're part of that journey. But I have to share with you, there was a group of children, the school I was at the time when I reverted, and it was very, you know, corporate. You're in school, you know, you're a particular figure in that environment, and all of a sudden you've changed your faith, you've changed the way you know, you do things. And I remember the first time I thought I'm going to be wearing my scarf. I've got to, you know, you just talking yourself into it. Right, this was the day. So this day I decided. And I remember my year group was coming towards me, and I thought, oh my goodness, what are they going to say? Because, you know, children, they're always very, very honest in everything they do. And I thought, my God. And the first thing they said, mashallah, miss. They said, you look so lovely. She said, and I said, thank you so much. And that just kind of eased my heart, because it wasn't about how I looked. It was just about how I felt. Yeah. And it was nerve-wracking. Even as a grown adult, it is quite nerve-wracking how you are perceived. Yeah. And it's a natural thing. And over time, you do strengthen, and you get to the point where you don't really care. Yeah. But at that time, I felt vulnerable and open, and it was just so nice to receive that support from children. Yeah. And I remember, even with praying, I remember, you know, water comes to my eyes when I think of this. There was a little group of girls, they were sisters, Somalian sisters, and they were the minority actually in that particular setting at the time. And I remember it was a time where they needed to set up a prayer room. There was no prayer room or anything like that, and there were Muslims at the school at that time there that were practicing. But then I thought, you know, it's not about criticising other people. It's about doing what I can do, use my position to, you know, have this discussion about what is right for these young people to be able to practice their faith. And without going into all of it, eventually they allowed a space, a right type of space for praying. And I remember they were so grateful, and I said, one thing I need you to do, you can help me to pray. So they used to help me with my prayer. We used to all pray together at lunch times, and it was just so beautiful. And I met them years later there in university. I met one when I was actually, you cannot believe this, I was actually at the hospital, and I was my daughter was not very well, and I went to the prayer room in the hospital, in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. They've got a lovely prayer room there, and who did I see there? That little girl that taught me to pray.
Really? Oh, alhamdulillah.
Yes.
Wow.
She was now a grown woman, and she was now a nurse, and it was just so, we just saw each other and hugged, and we just cried. We just cried together, and that was so beautiful. And you know, Allah just gives us these moments, these glimpses, just to remind us that he's in the mix of this.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, and to always remember.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's so important.
When I hear those kind of things, it just cements my own thought process of Allah having a better plan than anything I can plan.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because these things happen to me personally, and I'm like, I couldn't, in my best intentions, I couldn't have planned for this to happen as it happened. And then I hear like my sister's story, other people, and I hear yours, and I'm like, it's how many signs do people want to know? For me personally, how many signs do people want to be able to accept that God exists for once, the monotheistic faith side of things, and the fact that we have our lives, and this isn't the be all and end all.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, people, as I said at the beginning, it's important to share our journey, because it enables to awaken or remind people that those thoughts that they have, and they sometimes second guess and think, oh, was that something? Yes, it is something. God is speaking to us, and he speaks to us in so many different ways, and he uses people as tools, and even, as a matter of fact, he uses people that aren't necessarily God-fearing, but he tests us with, even people that are going to challenge our faith.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's important that we use those opportunities to grow.
Definitely.
And we use those opportunities to turn. And my dad always used to say to me, a soft answer turneth away wrath. And it's true, sometimes you use that to turn things around, and it gives those people an opportunity within themselves, when they're in their own space, to reflect. Because everyone does reflect about how they treat others.
Alhamdulillah, that's amazing. That's such a beautiful story, especially with the hijab, because obviously when you met me as well, when I saw you and Sophia, just how you acted and how you were literally helped me,
Really?
I'm like, honestly, that's because, like, I think it was after, within a month, then I started wearing the hijab. Just watching you gave me a lot of dawah, so yeah, it's amazing.
See, you don't even think sometimes, you don't realise how, even though you try to be conscious of your behaviours, but you don't realise the impact.
Yeah, definitely. And because you didn't judge either as well, you just...
It's really important. I think what I think is a positive, when you are going back to reverting, and you remember your journey, and you remember how the challenges are. It's important, and I'd really say to anyone who was born Muslim and not necessarily had particular challenges. I'm not saying they don't have challenges, because I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of not taking it for granted, that wearing the scarf, going through that process, your family, you know, people around you, seeing that transition and the battles that you can face, you know, and not everyone has it. The transition isn't always easy for some people.
Yeah.
And it's important that, you know, they play their part as well in when someone does take their shahada. It is really key that you do have somebody assigned to that person in that masjid, in that mosque, to support that person who has taken their shahada. Because I mean, I feel blessed that I didn't necessarily need somebody like that, because I think I'm a strong person, and I think and I had resources that I could tap into, but not everybody has that privilege. And you know, their age, you know, if they're a young person who's taken shahada, it's just really important that they have that guidance, because there can be different types of mindsets that aren't necessarily the true Islam, and some, unfortunately, some people have a misunderstanding of Islam, and they can be misguided. So it's really important that they are nurtured, and from an emotional perspective. I think it's really key. Sometimes people miss that out, because when you revert, you're also, you know, you're thinking, oh, do I have to dress like an Arab? Do I have to dress like a Pakistani? You know, and you find within your journey, no, I dress like, as long as it's modest, as long as it falls within the lines of, you know, what our Creator has instructed us to do, for our modesty and our good. It's really important that they find who they are, and because some things are cultural, and some things are Islamic, and cultural is not bad as long as it does not go against what is prescribed Islamically.
100% agree. 100% agree. I think, and also, you know, while you were going on your journey, because like for me, I didn't have many female sisters around me to help me at all. So with you, did you have many female sisters to help you? How did you learn about, you know, the sister side of things within Islam, how to pray?
I mean, I had sisters, but not near, in terms of, like, for example, my cousin who had reverted, he has a lovely, lovely wife. She's amazing. But I couldn't see her that often because, like, restrictions with work and things like that. But when we did meet, she was always so welcoming, and she played a part for me in normalizing Islam. Normalize it, you know, making us realize actually you can have fun, you can go out for meals, you can have family fun. It was just not this kind of perception that was like put out there, like the media, and she really normalized things for me. So yeah, I was blessed to have, you know, Amina in my life. I think she's just an amazing woman and mother. But I go back to those little girls, those little Somalian girls. They were amazing in terms of they planted those little seeds, oh miss, if you read this surah, oh miss, try and do, and that stayed with me. And then I think that urged me to say, right, come on now, you need to kind of get it together, you need to learn about this and that. And I used to push myself. My daughters, I've felt over the years now, we're at this stage where it's just so lovely, where we can like over 13 years and coming up to this point now, it's the beauty of it is that we feel like we are a Muslim family. I no longer feel like I'm a revert, if that makes sense. And also, why I say that is because I remember listening to a lecture and them saying, actually, the Sahaba were reverts, and they were, they'd gone through something, but they were so steadfast in supporting the cause. So it's really important that we get out of the mindset of feeling like second-class Muslims. Because sometimes you can. I'm not saying people make you feel like that, but sometimes you can feel that way within yourself. So it's important that you own that and you realise that actually Allah chose you. You didn't choose Islam. Allah chose you, and it's an honour, and it's important that we also ensure that we set the example, and when there are others around us, we also play that part in ensuring that we help those people that are feeling challenged. But my daughters, we actively as sisters, it's nice. We can sit up and talk about, like, after Fajr prayer, we'll sit up and read together. Or, we're talking about sisterly stuff. It's not always like mum and daughter. We're actually like sisters. And it's just amazing. But the transition, it didn't happen overnight. Because everybody is growing within their own space. And it wasn't like that in the beginning, because everyone is trying to find who they are. Working on your prayers, working on your, and when one person is right up on their prayers, the other person may not necessarily be in that journey. And it's beautiful when you've reached the point where everyone's waking up for Fajr, or someone's texting somebody, it's Fajr time, wake up, or knocking the door, and it's just so lovely. And having Eid together, and preparing and talking about the things like, for example, something that people don't often talk about is when, within death, and actually talking about how we would prepare the body in death, and making sure that the women are aware of how to do all those things. It's having those kind of discussions, because in the beginning I didn't have all those things, so it's taken time. It was difficult in the beginning, but there's been a big improvement.
Alhamdulillah, subhanallah, that's so good. That is so good. That's brilliant. How did you because obviously you must have had friends before coming into Islam. How did they react to it? How did you explain Islam to them? What did they say about it, seeing you on this journey?
Well, to be fair, my friends that know me really well, they know that I'm a person, if I make a decision, it's a decision made, My friends that I knew from school, I've always been, I I'd say the type of friend that is being on the cusp of the friendship group, where I'd be on the boundary, and I'd dip my toes in every now and again. They'd see me and they wouldn't see me. So it wasn't that difficult a thing for me. The ones that were very close to me, they respected my decision. They used to ask questions about, for example, like, was it my husband that I was, and why I was wanted to become a Muslim, and I'll explain to them it was before then. I got married, that I was interested in Islam. But pretty much they respect me as a friend, and they never really questioned my reasonings to become Muslim, because they've always known I've been a spiritual person, but they would say they could see a better change in me. But the only thing is, I felt that I had to kind of step back, because the difficulties were in the beginning of, like, things that they would practice. That's something that I wouldn't be doing, so I had to physically cut myself off, because I didn't want to be offensive towards them, or say something to offend them. So for me, the better thing is to just, like, stay within my setting, and, like, if they'd invite me out, I couldn't go anyway because of the setting that they'd want to be in. But as I said, with the growth with my daughters and my sisters in Islam, my friends who are not yet Muslim, I say, they now actually, what was lovely, last summer, we had a little reunion, and I remember one of my dear friends saying to me, she said, I'm going to phone you. I'm phoning you first because I know that you pray a certain time. I know that you only eat certain things. I'm going to ask you, where would you like to go? And it was so lovely. I just felt so emotional about it. And then we made an arrangement. So we'd made the arrangement around myself, but without her having to make me feel awkward.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really, really appreciated. And so it takes time, and it's a transition, and it's a journey.
Yeah.
And Islam is a journey. It's not something that just happens and you start with a feeling and a sense of achievement. This, right, I've now taken my Shahada. This is it. It's growth, and you grow with it, and you learn so much about yourself. You learn about how you can push boundaries, and you are greater than how you think you are. Not in terms of being narcissistic or being having this ego. I mean, in terms of your greatness, the things you can achieve is through Allah. And even if I'd have said to you 20 years ago, so I'd be speaking to anyone about myself, it wouldn't happen, because that is not my personality. I was a very shy person, very quiet, but what Islam does to you, it makes you realize that you're bigger than just you, and you can, and Allah will give you those things that you feel that you need or that you're lacking to build yourself to impact on others. And I've felt that Islam has changed me to the point of I don't recognize myself sometimes in a positive way. The things I can do now, like speak in public, about issues that I'm really passionate about, I'm able to do so, and I believe strongly it's because of my faith, because my faith tells me that, you know, it's to speak the truth.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
Yeah.
It's part of what our deen is about, and I truly believe in that because it changes lives. But yeah, it's an amazing. I would never say religion, because I don't think Islam is a religion. It's a way of life.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, alhamdulillah.